already so prevalent in today's society, may be thwarted. It gives me great pleasure, therefore, to present to you today the founder of the League, Miss Sylvia Stankhurst, singing for us a song which offers sage advice to the worried citizen. Sylvia's mother, the celebrated Emmeline Stankhurst, will accompany on the pianoforte.
Folks, it's time for Shiny Side Out with David Dunger and Mecky. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Take it away, guys.
Hey, and welcome to another Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mecky.
We're part of Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. Join us on air by joining us in the chat room. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook to get updates between shows, and check out our website for up-to-date guest information, guest bios, and previous shows, and that's really important. If you're in the US during our show, you can call in on 347-688-2902. You can add Freedom Screen to Skype and jump in as well. We welcome the calls. You know, if you've got something to add, let us know. This is show number 27. Hey, Mecky, right. How you doing?
Good, Dave. Yes, very good, in fact. How are you?
Great.
Just a little banter, just a little social convention here at the beginning of the show. It's necessary, I think.
Sure is.
To communicate our good humor. Dave, 27 shows. Who would have thunk it? Not me, that's for sure.
You know what? When I was doing the pitch, I really didn't think it was going to get up. And I still tell people go, so what do you do? I go, I'm in IT. Oh, I have a radio show. Really? No kidding. No, honest. Yeah. And I tell them the story of having a pitch and go, oh my God, Mecky, I need your help, man.
It was hilarious. No, I get the same thing. In fact, just the other day at work, I don't really talk about it a lot, to be honest with you. And my brother will my brother will say the opposite, of course. But I really don't talk that much. It's certainly not at work. And I mentioned it for the first time in a long time again at work. And they go, "What? You got a radio show?" And another guy goes, "Yeah, my son listens to it." And I go, "Oh, really? Your son listens to it?"
Oh, that's hilarious. You're not kidding, are you?
No, I'm serious. And I go, "Okay, great." Yeah, because he says, "Oh, yeah, my son is a bit like that." Okay, so apparently, Dave, we are a bit like that.
Yeah, well, I knew I was like that, whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought we had it, not that.
No, we definitely are like that. We probably have it, but it's definitely something about that. And we always run from them, so bear with us, guys. Today's show is going to be, it's going to be freeform. To the extent that we're going to bring you news. We do want to conclude the moon theme that we've been running for the last 4 shows, so it's a big topic for us, as you can imagine. And Dude Guy was awesome enough to give us a document that his friend Fred Cameron put together.
Yeah, and you know what? What did that make us do?
It made us put another show on the moon. Actually.
Good on you. I'm wave your arm harder, boy. Thanks, Dude Guy. No, that was awesome. No, really, that's what we live for. We live to be in this collaboration between you and us. Like, we want to bring you everything, and if one person out there knows something, fantastic. I was called last week, before the show, from a guy that lives up near me, and said that he had some photos of Mars. And I said, what do you mean photos of Mars? And he goes, well, it's a single photo. I can't email it. It's too big. It's like 28 meg. And I said, oh, okay. Well, tell me what it is. And he goes, I can see buildings. I go, yeah, great. Well, let me know, all right? Get it to me, and we'll have a look at it and see what's going on. So this experience is backwards and forwards. You guys help us, we help you, and we'll be the funnel and to let everyone know. If we can get a single trickle coming in, we'll let everyone know.
Oh, 100%. My favorite information coming the other way, from you guys, is when we received the a photostat or a photocopy of a newspaper article that puts put Admiral Byrd into the Antarctic, making some very interesting claims from I got a line now, either a Colombian or I think it was a Colombian newspaper, but essentially we had heard about it. The websites couldn't give us any links to it, so from out there in the world, in fact, might have been one of your contacts, Dave. We received the actual clipping. So
absolutely, yeah, it was one of my contacts. I couldn't believe you found it. I mean, it was a he, and I thought I was pretty good at the internet.
Yeah. The interweb.
That interweb thing in the box.
Download it and print it out in color for me, please.
Yeah, the whole internet. Yeah, that's right. I want you to, executive summary page. They were hilarious that someone could find something and I couldn't. I was really blown away by it. But yeah, I met you during the week. I did an impromptu thing. I just wanted to listen in, and suddenly there was dead air, and I went, "Oh, look, I'm taking the dead air. I'm going to run with it."
And
So guess what? I did a 2-parter dead air with a gap, and I put it back to simulcast afterwards. I did a Days of Our Lives show history.
it's a clip show. Oh no, it's a clip show.
The Simpsons did it.
Oh, they
I
didn't.
think a viewer writes, I think Homer's getting stupider every episode.
Not true. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so we did a clip show. It was only quick. I just really basically taking the dead air away, and yeah, it was great.
Awesome. Now, with the clip show now, and this is really important as well. Before we get into the show, we have spent the last 27 or so shows, give or take a couple, speaking largely about physical evidence, be it textual or in fact archaeological, or mythological, and certainly we have tried to attack it from that point of view, and we have come almost to the end of that approach. I don't think there's a lot we can add. There's a lot more detail, of course, that we couldn't not hope to capture in 100 shows or 200 shows, and other documentaries, books, and publications have provided a lot more detail than we can. Our intent was to show you there's a lot of stuff out there that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't quite gel with what we learn in school. But, and we have touched on this as well in the past, a number of shows, I keep talking about the Cartesian split. And by that I mean the split between the spiritual and the physical. So science now has the domain of the physical, and the spiritual is firmly within the domain of religion, if you will, or philosophy and so forth. And I think that was a mistake to make that split, to break it all up. And we will be talking a bit more about what it all means. I mean, it's great to talk about it, right, Dave? It's fun to look at things that are a bit strange and it's a little entertaining and gives you it's a little bit like the Twilight Zone or a good horror movie, But except, guys, this is all real. This is your life, and Dave and I will attempt to make you or bring you some information that will hopefully help you come to your own conclusions. We will offer our ideas and our theories and our conclusions, but that doesn't mean they're correct or they have to be yours. But we certainly want you to think about that, because something is going on, and it's not just something. There's a UFO. Why is there a UFO? Or the ancient civilization, and it was destroyed. But why did it happen? And how did it happen? And why is this information so hard to come by? I mean, well, it's actually not that hard to come by. It's just hard to get it accepted. It's hard to learn it in school.
There's a lot of people's opinions on each one of these things that we're bringing up, but once again, they are opinions, and no one's giving any plausible information towards it, or accepting the plausible information. Let's put it that way.
This is, last week Dave was baiting me into my rant.
You listened back to it the other day. I was listening to just how it was going, and it was very funny.
I'm sorry, but I'm all for skepticism, right? I really am. I have no issue with being proven wrong and told, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. That's fine. Just give me proof. Give me another opinion that's more valid than mine and Dave's and anyone else's for that matter. But don't just say, we really only have one source for that of truth, and you know what? I really can't repeat that in my lab. You know what? And Penn and Teller, God bless their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
Probably some of the worst perpetrators of this. They had a show on conspiracies, believe it or not. Sometimes.
Penn and Teller.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The magicians.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the show is called, but I think it's Skeptic or Debunking. I can't remember. The name of the show is.
I think it's called Penn and Teller Tells a Lie or something.
Could be.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I knew a couple of the researchers on there, and I don't know, by sleight of hand or through some magic or just clever editing, Penn and Teller made those guys look like absolutely insane fools. Okay? Not want to sit next to the bus with any of those guys.
Yeah.
Of course, it is a representation, and then once you make someone into a caricature of themselves, no longer have to take them seriously. There was no debunking as such happening. There was only a personality assassination of the people they focused on in that show, and that's really what happens. If what you come up with, if your research cannot be refuted in a scientific forum, they will try to kill you professionally, or your reputation, or they might threaten you. Not necessarily kill you physically, but certainly make you look like a fool or dig up something in your past. Again, I don't want to digress too much, but does anybody think that Julian Assange is really guilty of those charges that are levied against him?
I'm saying no. I don't believe that the evidence put forward to anybody is convincing enough. But America really, I believe America wants him to.
No doubt, and
really.
I agree with you, Dave, 100%. It's a witch hunt, and probably the worst since the McCarthy era in the States. But what did he do? Well, he did something very, very bad. He told people the truth in an unbiased fashion. He just took the data. Here it is. Put it out there for people to look at. That's what he did. He didn't put a spin on it. He didn't give an opinion. He didn't call to arms. He didn't want to start a revolution. Blah blah blah. Mm-hmm. And maybe Dave and I are guilty of giving too much of our opinion at times, but that's what we do, right? That's why you listen to us, I hope. So,
do you know what? We're not shock jocks, though.
No, true. And we don't drop any bombs, F or otherwise. So, we do try to keep it clean. And Nighthawk, I swear to you, we will keep on keeping it clean.
Yeah, okay. Swear to him. Sorry, guys. Hey, just relating to the I'm going to use that as a segue. The shock jock. We had a shock jock here in Australia say that the Prime Minister's father died
of shame.
Of shame, right? But overheard was that same person in a extremely right-wing group of people, smoking cigars and sipping cognac from large glasses, being told to say it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that?
That's what's come out. I have another contact who's been telling me some stuff, and they said that there was a large dinner. They were all there, all of the right-wing politicians, and of course the Prime Minister isn't. She's probably middle of anything, if it's going to be best put. She's not left-wing. And yeah, so here he goes. He's put his job on the line to do this, and he's in the media just getting more and more famous for it. But it shows that the control isn't just what we see.
Oh, look, Dave, but this is the thing, right? It is what is best. What we see on the news, it's hardly ever an accident, right? What you hear, it's hardly ever an accident. If a shock jock comes up, usually a shock jock does it to get ratings. with this Ellen, well, can we say his name? AJ.
AJ, yeah, that'll do. Mm-hmm.
He maybe he's slumping the ratings, maybe he wants more ratings, but there's also an agenda that is being followed here, I'm sure. And the ratings, because trust me, people will start listening to the show a lot more. If Dave and I started slagging off someone and become, if we were very polarized, Dave and I, maybe if Dave was right wing and I was left wing, we had a debate, or we're both right wing, like Fox News,
Yep.
balanced news, we would have a lot more listeners. Not that we don't have enough, but I'm telling you, we've been an overnight sensation. But having said that, as said, in politics and by extension in society and certainly in the world, historic events and news, nothing happens by chance. I'll dig up who said it, but I think it's a truism. These things rarely happen by chance. There's usually an agenda behind it, because nowadays there's, I think, 5 or 6 families controlling the news. Yep, and it's most of the things that we see are intentionally brought to us. There's the media slants a certain way. We've seen it during elections, we've seen it during wars, we've seen it during, whatever the topic of the hour might be, there's always an opinion that is being transmitted these days. The news are no longer just the news for you to listen to. Like, it's not like, oh, this happened here, this happened there. Yeah, Dave, but look,
I'm helping you. I'm helping.
So the thing is this: we have recently witnessed something that I think is a major shift. You might disagree.
What's that?
And this was I think 2 nights ago. I could be wrong, and it was on a major news channel in the United States. A man was chased. I think it was a man. He was chased by the police. It was a car chase, and a news helicopter was delivering live footage. Like
the OJ chase, yeah.
100% correct. And this, if I'm not mistaken, and the gentleman being pursued went off the main road, into a field, eventually got out of his car and ran a ways up the dirt road and proceeded to shoot himself. It did not fade to black before it happened. It did not cut out. Make no mistake, every show on TV, every show on the radio, anything that you watch commercially or even free to air has a delay. We are on delay.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 30-second delay, Dave, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And apparently that particular news show had a 5-second delay. Certainly plenty of time to fade to black when it happened.
So, there's a person's job,
yes,
right, in a major news station to sit there and stare at the screen with their finger on the button.
Exactly. Now, well, why do I think this is a game changer or shift? Because several 100,000 people watched it. It's not very often that you see live death these days anywhere, and usually it's very located. It's in a very localized area if you happen to be near things like that. But for a few 100,000 people to watch it kill themselves is a massive, and again, this is, I guess, our spiritual slant here as well. It's a massive disturbance, and I'm going to sound really insane here, of the force. Okay? You can call it whatever you like, call it chi, energy, prana, I don't care what you call it. It's a life energy around us, and it's neither good nor bad, it is just energy. Let me stretch the example a little further. Electricity is neither good nor bad. You can heat and light a room, or you can electrocute someone.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's entirely up to you. The life energy, which in my mind permeates everything and is responsible for a lot of things, the quantum field, I don't care what you call it, is like that. So if you can, through mass murder, through horrible events like 9/11, like the Holocaust, and things like that, sway it in the direction that you want to go, you are controlling that energy. You are giving it a color. You are influencing it, and it may be that there'll be a tipping point in that as well, and we'll talk about that as the other shows come along. Dave and I have spoken about the awareness cascade, and we believe it's linked to the Fibonacci sequence, and Fibonacci sequence of population numbers, that is.
And with the population increasing, there's a tipping point.
So, what is your take on this? I mean,
me?
Yeah.
Who? What? I'm only kidding. Yeah, I see the same thing. I think that what we're seeing is the beginning of the desensitization towards this. I mean, yeah, we can all say, yeah, we've seen it, and yeah, we have. We've seen it before. We've seen the continual trend. If you take your mind back to the 70s TV shows and how they are now, the envelope is slowly getting peeled away. Oh, I sound like Carl Sagan. It's slowly being peeled away, and revealing, probably against the best intentions of everybody, really, um, a different thing altogether. We're pushing the boundaries so far that there aren't any boundaries left. And when you think there aren't any boundaries, you realize there are because they just release some more. American television is very sanitized. Only the cable channels, Comedy Central, and a couple of others allow full swearing. Of course, we don't do it on air here. We know we all swear to some degree outside of being on air. A lot of people more than others. But the unfiltered death of a person on air. Remember, this stuff used to hit the cutting room floor, and I've actually met one of the resellers or distributors of the what was it called? Faces of Death series. That was too good. Sorry, I shouldn't say good. It was too much for the American people or the broadcast media to put on air, so they just packaged it up into in those days, a videotape, and you could hire it, which is for all of those morbidly inquisitive people, right? And in fact, I watched it, and I was put into the position to see dead people when I was very young by my father, who was a policeman. Awesome stuff. I think you do need to see it. I think being cotton-wooled just leads you to have a false sense of what the world's all about. And we talk about this if the world was to fall apart, and Revolution episode 2 was on, and I watched that. You're going to be confronted with a lot more of this stuff. I have a strong opinion on this stuff, friend. So, I don't want it to be a rant, but just be aware that they had the ability to blank that scene out, cut it away, go somewhere else with that. Nothing is live. I swear to you, nothing's live. So, so when something slips through, you just know that either someone just got fined and they're not going to tell you about it, or there's an intention behind it. A long time ago in Australia, there was some guys in a control booth watching the tennis and watching porn at the same time, and this is very funny. The producer accidentally pushed the wrong button going into a commercial, and it went live. Their porn went live for about 5 seconds. Right, it was hilarious because every child sitting there with their parents watching the tennis went, "What's that, Daddy?" And my parents said, "That's a man with a beard eating a banana." And and as quickly as I said that, it went to some soap commercial, and my parents were redder than our lounge suite. So look, it's possible. It's quite possible that it was intended. The media, I think the Simpsons make a joke about it, don't they? On Fox, they say Fox turned so slowly into a hardcore porn channel that we didn't even notice.
That's right.
Marge says that. I think it's true. I think we're watching not hardcore porn, but I think we're watching the desensitization of everyone towards this, and it is not through. I mean, all of these crime shows. How popular are they? And they all. I can't understand how you can have a crime show on almost every channel.
That's and just need to say something there too. You made a very, very good point. I believe that desensitization agenda has through the media, through games and so forth. Why is everything now a crime show? Why is NCIS, CSI, Someone's Bones, Castle? These are all criminal shows where somebody gets killed. For sure, one person will die during the course of that show.
What's the one where you're the good guy is the guy that kills people?
Yeah. And what? And why is it that we don't have we still have comedies? The crime shows are now about 45 minutes. With commercials that runs to an hour. Comedy shows, I'm talking about America specifically here, guys. Crime shows run for an hour, whereas comedy shows run for half an hour, which is really 20 minutes with commercials. Mm-hmm. So there's a shift, there's a flip, if you will, from having these comedy shows, which are really interludes now, between these massive blocks of crime shows. And the live broadcasting of this particular unfortunate suicide, I think, is just the first of many to come. Not the same, but certainly in a similar vein. I think we will see this kind of thing a lot more. There were a few movies made that I guess have this theme of, in the future we will watch gladiatorial events on TV with people actually being killed.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching Survivor, this TV show on the island or wherever they are, and instead of being voted out, they'll just be killed.
Or they'll just die because they failed to eat properly.
Correct. Already has I do watch it from time to time, and because I find it interesting, just the human interactions there, and in extreme situations, by the way. And a lot of people have been injured and had to be airlifted out, otherwise they would have died. So already we're pushing the envelope, and unfortunately, and guys, if we can make a change here, if you could be different, don't slow down for the next accident that you pass. Maybe help that person up that fell down in the street. Don't be one of those guys that like to watch violence. Don't be that person. Let's not be that. People do love it because it's not them. Ooh, something bad is happening. Ooh, it's not me. Lucky. In Germany we call that Schadenfreude. Again, the Simpson reference, which means a joy at someone else's fortune. And that's not a good. Shame. Word for it, but so this is really what we're trying to steer you guys from as well, because you know what, people laugh when I say this, and I know they will laugh, and I don't care, but the truth is this is the fundamental truth of the thing. All you need is love, really, right? The last guy who said it in a public forum was nailed to a cross. Good luck to them, but I believe that's the message we need to propagate here. Within love, I'm not talking about physical love. I'm not talking about love for your wife. I'm talking caritas, or for your neighbor. So the Greeks have beautiful, they have 5 or 6 different words for love, describing all kinds of different kinds of love. So love your neighbor, love your environment, love your children. Love the world you live in, love your job if you can. Things which create a better world, and hopefully over the course of the next few shows. We can show you why that's important. Then again, you can laugh at me, and I myself, I'm not a religious person, but I believe in the positive power of prayer. I believe in focused thought, in will manifestation. I do, because I've seen it, and now, believe it or not, there have been scientific studies. You may not have heard about them, but there's a book called The Field. And we're going to talk about that as well. So what you think and how you interact with someone, instead of frowning at someone, smile at someone. Instead of cutting someone off in traffic, let them in.
Mm-hmm.
You are giving this world a positive spin. Every push, every shove, every giving of way, every smile has an effect. Make no mistake about that. And we are being taught systematically by all the people that are in power to be the worst person, not the better person. Sorry, I'm ranting again.
That's okay. You know what? That's probably the most esoteric I've ever heard Meki speak. It is the most. I wanted to bring up something else, and that was the genetically modified food thing. Now, I've never, in Australia, we've been conditioned, and this is part of Dredge. What's his name? Dread Shoes. I just know him as Dread Shoes. Seth. When he talks about the media conditioning everyone, and how it is, whether it's print, movies, TV, whatever have you, and it's something, right? To realize it's happening, but when you don't realize that it's really happening to you, and then suddenly you just have this moment when you do. We're conditioned in Australia to trust wholeheartedly the experts at the CSIRO. And just believe whatever it is that they say is true, and then because they've done the research, they're good at it, right? That's what they do. Probably like your Food and Drug Administration, I would have to believe, but these guys actually do the science, so they're the people actually doing the work, who do the releases of some crazy new, modified insect into the wild to reduce its numbers or whatever. Unlike in America, ours just were designed to be sterile, so that would breed and knock out a whole generation, right? It was awesome. However, the genetically modified food has in this country been advertised from the beginning before it started. We're going to attempt to modify food, for instance, corn, to have fish oil in it so it can last through the very bitter frosts that we might have where we'd normally grow it. Cool. Excellent. Everyone's got a thumbs up. And then the thing that, you are what you eat keeps ringing in my mind. Okay, so I don't mind tuna. That's cool. And tuna corn. Yeah. That sounds even better. There's no flavor. No, disappointingly, corn doesn't suddenly taste like tuna because that'd be awesome. Because you can put lemon juice on it. It'd be really nice, right?
Grow teeth and bite you. That's good.
Yeah. See? Positive spins. But guess what? In America, someone who ate a cantaloupe got salmonella poisoning.
Excellent.
From a cantaloupe. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't lick my cantaloupes before I eat them. And certainly, I didn't know that any chicken was bred with a cantaloupe, because there aren't many things that it lives on. So, just in time. Yeah, we do have an FDA equivalent here, and things are passed through it, but it's not. It's just part of the government, so it's not an agency of its own accord. But the
You from the FDA in the States here.
Yep. So how on earth can you cut open a cantaloupe and then, because they tested it and it had salmonella inside it?
Obviously rejected by some crazy person in the supermarket.
No, that's completely plausible. However, it doesn't live in that environment. So it apparently does now. So what it does, it opens up the realm of there being genetically modified foods with now a brand new bug that didn't have either a food source or was killed naturally by, whatever used to be there, but now has the ability to live there because it has a food source. Right? And because of that, now we're discovering the adversities of playing with our food. We don't know. We were always told, never play with your food. Well, it's probably true.
Let me put it this way, Dave, and this is the thing. First of all, just because we can do something doesn't mean we should.
Mm-hmm.
Anything, right? But secondly, what computers, and especially supercomputers and maybe in the near future quantum computers, allow us to do and will allow us to do is go well beyond our current maturity. And when I say maturity, I mean maturity in a philosophical or even moralistic point or way of life. So we don't have evolved the moral framework yet for doing these things. And we certainly don't have evolved understanding of the consequences this particular gene splicing will have. Because if you start splicing genes into something, and people say, we've always modified our food. Made plants bigger or smaller or whatever, we've started breeding dogs and cats, blah, blah, blah. Sure enough, true enough, yes, we have. We have always done it through breeding processes. Yeah, but we've never gone down to the genetic level. We don't really know what we're playing with. I mean, come on, cantaloupe with salmonella? Is that really something we're aiming for here? But this is just one of the side effects. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, maybe a cucumber will back and strangle you sleep. I don't know.
They've found there's a link now between a particular kind of cancer, and I forget which one it was. I'll have to go through the notes. And the genetically modified food that those people had eaten. They'd all eaten exactly the same food type, and no one else in that area.
Okay.
So we're now, because of the whole, we've gone through it almost, not a whole generation, but there's a good pocket of information gathering now that there's now coming out, and we're seeing. I'm not saying it's all bad, right? If you have two strains of corn and one of them's really good, but you like the growth rate of the other one, you could probably fiddle around with that, right?
Dave, it's mostly bad, guys. Science genetic engineering is mostly bad.
Only because it's like we're graduate students cut and pasting code in a computer. We don't really know what it does, but we'll have a look to see what happens.
Yeah.
Hey, look, it works, but you don't know it's sending 10 cents in the dollar to some other country. I'm just making it a silly example, but you get sort of where I'm at, right? We are just looking at the code. I'm not understanding that there's a language involved in it and that the code is quite complicated and it's there for a reason. So a can will open an iPhone. Good on you, SJ.
I, I,
He wants to genetically modify them together, so that'd be awesome.
think that's brilliant.
Yeah, well, no, not because the map application is terrible. I just saw an apology from the head of, and I'm not a fanboy of either side. I will be in my own world, but not on air. And I'm just going to say that I believe that they should have excluded the map application from the phone, the iPhone 5, when they released it, and just said, you know what, it's coming soon. What you'll see in the new release when it's completed is this fantastic thing, but they've rushed to market with the iPhone 5 and they didn't test the map application. It's getting people lost. It's hilarious. And they've said, oh, you're probably best off using a different map application until we get it fixed. Google Maps is the best map application on the planet.
Dave, wash out your mouth. Apple knows what it's doing.
No, I'm sure they're under great control, and they certainly have a boardroom full of yes men that have agreed that was a great thing to do. I'm sorry, I get really upset. They should have used Agile.
I'm sorry, sorry, but we apologize to our Apple sponsors. Dave, very interesting that was just posted in the room, and I can't let it go because.
What was that?
How many people of color are in this room? And by this room, I think we're referring to the chat room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Kaiser, Sosi, I am half Turkish and half German, and I have, way back, I have Ukrainian Jewish ancestors. I also have Bulgarian, Hungarian, Croatian, Serbian, and Greek blood, I think. And I have, in growing up in Germany, I tell you, is not a happy experience if you're half Turkish back in the 60s and 70s. It would be equivalent to a black man marrying a white woman in the 50s and 60s in the United States, specifically South. So I do understand, I think, some of what you're trying to relay. So I don't know how many other people of different ethnicity are in the chat room. Usually that shouldn't really matter. I think the truth is out there for everybody. But I don't think that color, because I tell you what, okay, now I have to, sorry, I'm ranting again, but this is important. The people that are in charge, and I call them people loosely, don't give a hoot what color you are, what creed you are, what you believe in, what you don't believe in, what your job is, where you live, what car you drive, what you eat, how often you go to the movies, which sports team you follow, or what shoes you wear. To them, you're cattle. You're a useless eater, and I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, green, purple, or striped. Okay, and they don't care either. They care less. In fact, they don't care about us at all. Right? We are really just cattle. That's it. Get used to it. I mean, this is where they're going to. If this population reduction is going to happen, and we're talking down to about 500 million, we will be living in an agrarian society with the few having everything and the many having nothing, and working the earth and riding horses. Well, actually, no, that's not true. We'll be leading the horses.
As long as there's no mortgage, I'm okay.
Entirely owned, lock, stock, and barrel.
Of course.
For Lord. So this is. So let's step away from our shortcomings. And by that I mean, our little quirks. We might not like this particular person or that accent or that color, or we like someone's red hair, or maybe this person's too short. I mean, this actually happened. The Hutus and the Tutsis, Rwanda. The main difference between those two tribes was height. They were both black, but they massacred each other because of a height difference. I mean, it was a distinguishing feature between those tribes. And I blame the British again for what happened. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. So let's step away from all of that and let's focus on the things. I mean, we all point. I don't think that the genetic engineering to stuff us around is making any distinction between blacks or white, Hispanics, Mexicans, Europeans, Australians, Indians, Chinese. I don't think there's a difference there, is there?
I'm going to say no, there isn't. And remember when we had Lloyd Pye on, right? He was talking about there not being enough genetic diversity to call people different races. There isn't enough genetic diversity to do that. The dogs have more diversity than people, and we've bred them, we've made them ourselves. And we don't call them races, we call them breeds. Now, we don't have as much diversity to call us breeds either, nor races. We are all from the same mother.
Hundreds of years, correct?
Yeah, between 100 and 200. We're not, we did the dating show as well. I don't mean where we pushed a bell every 5 minutes and started talking to someone new. We're not as old as we're older than everything as the current education lends us to believe, but we have a current mother going back. Now, she might have been the only survivor at a particular point, or the first person created. Doesn't matter to me. But let me just instill that on the people in the chat room and listening. We have a large audience today, one of our largest, and there isn't enough difference for us to be called anything but human. We are all the same.
I'm not.
Well, neither am I.
Sorry,
We're kidding. So Meki, so we've covered our news, and we've gone through half an hour. Did you? What did you want to do next? Because we've spoken about the different topics we wanted to cover, and I couldn't think of a segue to get us somewhere, so I'm just going to ask.
yeah, just start talking about something else. No, what we should do, I think, we should finish off the moon. I just want to do a quick summary of it, and Dude Guy has said I think it's okay to post Fred Cameron's little booklet, I think we should call it, document on our show notes. So or you can download the entire document there.
Hang on. Sorry, Meki, I'm going to cut you off. Guess what? I heard something really cool today. Really, really cool. In 1890, a fellow in Melbourne, E.W. Coles, you can Google this yourself, E, and then a W, and then the word Coles, C-O-L-E-S.
Mm-hmm.
He put, I think the book is called the Children's Picture Book, and it's a lengthy book, but it was nothing to do for children. It was just for parents. In that book, near the end or something it is, and I was looking at it today, he made a series of predictions for the year 2000.
Okay.
One of those predictions was that transport would be connected globally. That you'd be able to go from any country to any other country. This is before planes, right? He said by whichever means were available, by car, by train, or what, I don't know, by car, by vehicle, I think, or whatever it was. He said, by horse, by whichever way, probably self-propelled flight would get everywhere around the world within the same day. Right? This was in 18-something. He also said, another prediction was that the entire globe would be as one country. Now, we're all staring down the barrel of the New World Order, so I just thought you'd probably like to know that it's not the first time we've been thinking about this, but he predicted it would be around about the year 2000. I don't think it's very far off. And the other one was that communications would be so fantastic, it would be like standing next to somebody. And that would be global. We would be able to socially communicate with each other instantaneously.
That's interesting.
Right on every case. Even, we all know about the rest. But I want you to have a look. I'll see if I can paste the link in the chat. And there's so much more. It's a very lengthy document. Most of it isn't predictions, but in his idle time. Clearly, he was a thinker. So why don't you proceed with the moon, and I'll see if I can find that thing. I'm sorry, there's a whole show on this fellow, but I just thought I'd put it out there.
And before I go on with the moon, Dave, I have to add that this actually comes into one of my pet theories, where I think that information is released to us piecemeal and according to a plan, an agenda, and certainly not necessarily in a physical way, because you'll find that if somebody works on something, someone else somewhere else works on the same thing, and they come to the same conclusion at roughly the same time.
Look at TV when it was made. There was a black and white version and a color version made at the same time in different parts of the world. Exactly. And if you didn't know that one, guys, it's true. And the first one was color. And we could have had it started with color TV, but no. Was it not Westinghouse? I think it was General Electric. Or Westinghouse, I can't remember which one. They were the ones who funded the first TV, thinking it would go somewhere, and the guy who had the color TV couldn't get funding.
Yeah, that thing will never make any money.
What a stupid idea that is. Yeah.
Isn't it the chairman of IBM said this about computers? Oh, personal computers, what a foolish idea.
Yeah, he said no one would need more than 640K.
For your non-IT guys, that's kilobytes, and we are now in the terabyte range. So
good luck. I've posted the link to the what's called Cole's Funny Picture Book. Mm-hmm. That'll get you in the right direction.
So I do believe that this. Look, I think we've been led along a certain plan for thousands of years. The plan is unfolding, and that gives me hope. And I tell you why. If everything was as gloom and doom as we think it is, we would already have been subjugated. If our I don't want to call them enemies, if the people that don't have our best interests at heart had all the power, okay? Mm-hmm. If they had all the wherewithal, the know-how, and the influence, and certainly the machinations to control us as they wished, we would have been already. They don't. They're working towards that. There are not that many of them. Society is structured like a pyramid for a reason. Okay, it wasn't always like this. Okay, duality is something that was introduced by these folk as well. In the olden days, there was no duality. There was no good and evil. Not like we understand it today. There was a pantheon of gods. There was a pantheon of nature spirits. And some were mischievous, and some were delightful, and others were indifferent. But the point is, all this stuff has come along to make it a lot easier to control us. It is a lot easier to control someone against someone. So you have one tribe here and another tribe there. You give them something to believe in, and you give something else to this tribe, and then within that tribe they are consistent, but they won't unite against you. They're too busy fighting each other, and maybe even within the tribe or whatever. So the point is that information is being released slowly to us, that helps us along the way, or helps whoever wants to control us along the way. Sometimes mistakes occur, absolutely. I think the internet was a mistake for the ones that want to control us to some extent. Mm-hmm. And we'll have a show on the, I think it's called the dark net or the dark web. It's essentially the part of the internet that most of you will never go to, will never see. And it's huge, it's massive, and it's torrents and downloading or illegally downloading material. That's sort of part of this underweb, if you will. But we'll talk about that as well. A friend of mine sent me some material there. So there's this knowledge, and you're right, Dave. I mean, and all of a sudden we come across these amazing guys, like the gentleman you just mentioned. His name is Cole, right? Mm-hmm. And there's Jules Verne. You've got other authors, H.G. Wells.
Visionaries.
Yeah, well, that's what we call them. If you actually look at who they are and who they hung with, who their posse was, you understand they were in the know. They were not just people out there, living by themselves, writing a book and just getting it all right. They hung out with the power players. They hung out with the secret society guys. They had the same, similar educations to the guys that ran the place. And they were more or less I guess you could call them the speaking part of the machine to some extent, and making these amazing predictions. And, they're hailed as these amazing, fantastic minds that could see into the future. They knew what was coming. They knew what was coming. They also knew what had been here before. Okay, Oppenheimer, was quoting the Mahabharata when the first nuclear bomb in Alamogordo,
Wow, is that hyphenated?
or whatever the name is. The first, it's in New Mexico, and obviously I'm tongue-tied. No, he quoted Mahabharata. He said, "I've become death, destroyer of worlds," and he goes, how do you feel about this, Oppenheimer? And he goes, well, it's the first detonation of a nuclear device in modern times. That's what he said.
Yep.
So these people know, for the most part. You don't. Maybe you know more now, and we don't. We research, we think, we make assumptions, and we make tentative links between different things. Dave and I have been at this for nigh on 30 years each. Don't have many other interests in my life, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's a sad thing.
That's why I love you, Mickey.
This is the passion that I guess that's why Dave called me when the show was offered to him on Freedom Slips. He couldn't think of anyone else crazy enough to do it.
Hey. I've got a lot of crazy friends. No, I had... When you're talking about knowledgeable, man, you're there. Right? There's no one in the world I would rather be on air with than with you, man. So, it's awesome.
It's real love right here, and I feel the same way, Dave. That's real love, guys. It doesn't have to be weird. It can be like...
It can be weird, but it doesn't have to be.
This is not Brokeback Mountain.
It certainly isn't.
In a good way. I didn't even think about saying no. So yeah, sure, let's do it. Yeah. Not knowing what I got myself into.
But don't you love it?
I love it a lot.
Hey, can I steer us?
Steer away.
Yeah, cool. We during the week, we discovered that our it's nothing. I'm just going to say this straight in front of what I'm saying. It's a pretext. That we love freedomslips.com, absolutely 100%. Big fans, and that's why we're here. It's a great vehicle, great avenue, great listeners, everything's good. Unfortunately, GoDaddy were having some security issues.
Oh, yes. Yeah, okay, let's go there. Okay.
I thought we might. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so and when we get back, we could just be solid on the moon, yeah? So, it was having some security issues, and with its previous version of where the host pages were kept for Freedom Slips, and it wasn't. It was going to be a full wipe of the entire thing, and a brand new version be rolled out. We'd have to make everything again. So, Hawk graciously offered us some space to put our website in another area. Now, we created a whole new website, and just letting you guys know that if you type freedomslips.com, you'll get to the radio. But if you go to shinysideout.net, that's all we're going to say. shinysideout.net. Go there. It links back to here, back to where we are, Freedom Slips. You can see all of the YouTube and Twitter and contact us, the whole thing's there, show notes for all the shows, because we discovered that when they took it off air, we had to go through the Google cache to get all the stuff back. Now, it's great. I'm glad that exists. But what this brought up to us was just how bad is the internet that you can't trust people. Now, we were just talking about the internet, and it's got a dark side. Well, it does. Mekki?
Absolutely, and this is the thing. It is pure anarchy on the internet. It's really what nation politics is about as well. So, and the darknet will be a very interesting show, I think. And I was actually upset when we lost our data, but Dave got it mostly back. And all our show notes are on the new site, which is great. And I understand, the issues that are inherent with upgrades and security glitches. But it's a beautiful tool. It's wonderful for information dissemination. There's no way to truly check sources unless you physically go to people and books and places. So take everything you get on the net with a grain of salt, including us. Don't listen to anything we say unless you can prove it for yourself, especially controversial stuff. So you wanna verify for yourselves what we talk about. But it's a great tool, guys. The internet, I believe, was one of the greatest mistakes the power elite ever made. Massive mistake, because it gave us, all of you, Joe Blogs in the street, the power to be heard and disseminate information on a massive scale.
Do you remember that in the local parks where in the public area, soapboxing?
Yeah. Oh, in Sydney.
Yeah, in Sydney, in Central Park in New York, there were soapbox areas where people could stand on a soapbox and just do what we're doing right now with no radio.
Pardon?
You needed a permit.
Did you?
Yeah, if you were going to, people would just go there. They ended up there was people doing it everywhere. And they said, no, in this area here, you're good to go. Right? If you stand only in this area, we won't harass you. We won't tell you to stop. So that's why they created the area in Hyde Park here in Australia, in Sydney. So that's before radio, right? So what we have now with the internet is any Tom, Dick, Harry, Jane, whoever you happen to be, with your own thing, your own website, your own blog. We've discovered, there's people, I'm not going to say disinformation people, but people who are making stories up and people who are just putting whatever they want out there and getting it to the right source. And you follow a story and suddenly it's on Fox News for some reason, and it's like, well, there was no legitimacy behind the story in the beginning. And have a look, it just came from this blog when it's anonymous entry in a blog. But someone picked it up and someone made a mistake, and then it went live and it ended up in Reuters, and then suddenly all the news stories were hinged around it. We've seen that mistake a number of times. We had a famous news story about someone who was being reported dead, and they were very much alive. What's his name? He does the entertainment thing, Mackie, on Channel 9. The old musician guy.
Yeah, Molly Meldrum. This one?
No, the other one.
The other one. Okay, so guys, there's Molly Meldrum and there's the other guy. So it's
that guy, whoever it was. Anyway, he said that some famous person was dead, and it's because it came from a blog he'd read, not a news source of any kind whatsoever, and he was mistaken, clear, and that's very funny. So yeah, but when you're trying to do something like what we're doing, and then trying to dig down to the bottom of whatever it is and get the real truth behind the origin of the story. I think that's something I learned a lot when we were talking to Jim Mars. I learned a lot about what is involved in bringing a story or breaking a story and needing to be accurate. I mean, because we could just come on here and make up any old thing, right?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome. I'd love a show
before you even knew that we had spoken one. That's not what we're trying to do.
No.
That's what makes it harder. It's a lot harder to research and trying to get to something that is true, or at least has some background that you can check for yourself. And I found, and again, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but mostly on talk radio, especially commercial talk radio, it's just opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Blah blah blah, opinion this, blah blah blah, I believe that, blah blah blah. These people are bad. I agree with you 100%. And I hope that you guys enjoy this. When we do try to bring you something that is at least partially factual, rather than just a diatribe of opinions, which you get elsewhere.
Yeah, since I've been doing this, I've been watching the Fox and the CNNs and Al Jazeera, for that matter, any media outlet. And I'm a big fan of Newsroom. I really am. And in Newsroom, how they try to keep their integrity by only putting the right stuff out, right? And I listen to them, and now I've got this. Maybe I'm polarized now, but when I watch their attempt at a polarized debate, I'm in hysterics. because they get the person they want to have the correct opinion that they're broadcasting, that they agree with. They get some legitimate expert on there who's, sane. And then they get a crackpot person who can't string their sentences together correctly, that they know is going to make a fool of themselves on air or do something and suddenly talk about, lizard people or whatever, yeah? No offense to David Icke. But sorry, we had a neighbour who was getting handcuffed and taken away by police, and their boyfriend was hit by one of the people living in their house, and when they were handcuffed and the policeman took the notepad out and ready to write, and they said the person, all they needed to say was, yes, that person over there hit them, I saw them hit them, that's great. Sat down and started telling everyone that they were to the police.
Sorry, I've got something for you.
That's right. So that they were that the police themselves did it. That the police themselves, it just, all it did was, okay, this person's crazy, let's put our notepads away. So you want to trust the source, you want to know where it comes from, you don't want the crackpot that's going to let the story down, and that's what they do, and I watch it on TV. I watch the major news stations do it, and it really bugs me. It bugs me that they're just feeding their opinion. And that's the opinion. The shock jocks do it too. They get a caller, they're screened before they go on air, and you hear them, start ranting on about something, and they don't really get to the point. They lose it altogether, and then they're cut off, and the shock jock it just amplifies their opinion because the person that they called that was in opposition to it was an idiot. So it's terrible that they do this to people, and I don't like it. I don't like where it goes, and hopefully we're not like that. But we're going to be attempting a debunking show where we get people credibly to try and listen to their argument, and we're going to be doing this in the future. Not have it, the expert and have a debunker on, because I think that's just useless radio. But I'd like to try and shoot some of these things down and hear plausible explanations for why we shouldn't believe in these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody who's out there listening who wants to be a debunker and come on, or skeptic to make us look like fools, please come on. Dave, though, before I go on,
yep.
And before the break, quickly, this is a multimedia show, and you know the guy that you asked about on Channel 9?
Mm-hmm.
That's Richard Wilkins, and I just received an SMS from one of our listeners, Jen Bright.
It was him, yep.
And she just SMS'd me, it's Richard Wilkins. So this is interaction at work, guys.
Awesome. And if she could also say who it was that he'd reported that was dead, who is still not dead to this day.
Right. Well, Jen, if you know and you feel like SMSing me, knock yourself out. Thanks for listening.
Oh, wow. So when we come back from the break, we'll be talking about the moon.
Yes, we will. Indeed. And once we finish that, which should take about half an hour or so, we're going to talk in detail about the show arc the arc the show is going to go on the next, dare I say it, 25 shows.
Awesome.
So yes, that would be brilliant. Let's mention the show, the station, Dave, because this is a user-supported station.
Absolutely. If you can get on there and donate anything, we don't make any money off this. Hawk doesn't make any money off this. It's all user-funded. We do this for free. Try and get on there. If you like what you're hearing, join us, bring us information, and we'll see you after the break. You're listening to Shiny Side Out.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio. We'll be right back after this short break, so stay tuned.
this is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Intuitive improvisation is the secret of genius.
Oh, I see.
I put my pants on,
So,
just like the rest of you, one leg at a time.
I guess I'll have to watch.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more Jacko.
Uh-huh.
I turned cities into salt.
Oh, okay.
You gotta come work for me.
Right. Uh-huh.
I could get you in now. You love it. Nobody tells you when to go to bed.
You want to call in, sure.
All day, all night.
If you want to fight or you got something more important,
You eat all the ice cream you want.
I'll take that too.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's
Um,
the wrong
I'm
tone.
not adding all these people. I don't know all these people. So, oh, I see. Right. Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm challenged.
Changing reality with the hijacker. Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Are you getting the complete truth, the dirty truth of what's really happening behind the scenes? From global corporatism and supply-side economics to the end of globalization itself. Suppressed knowledge by corporate America and the mass media. Tune into Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, the home of weaponized talk radio, to hear the dirty truth with Rick Trusick. And that's every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We will see you there, because you don't need to expect us. We're already here. Revolution Radio.
All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the second hour of Shine Side Out with
Dave?
Mac. We are part of Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. And just in case you didn't catch what Dave was saying toward the end of the last hour, we are operating on a user-supported radio station, and we are also very appreciative of any donations you could make to the station, and Nighthawk, all the other hosts that are working very hard to bring you what we think are informationally valid and entertaining items of news. But you can join us, our show, in fact, in the chat. and we welcome it. And today the chat's loaded. It's very interesting in there. You can follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook to get updates between our shows, and you can also check out our new website, which Dave mentioned earlier. And just quickly, you can also SMS me if you have my number, or Dave for that matter, like Jenny just had, Jenny Bright. And it's Jeff Goldblum.
Yes, that's right.
What we call live interaction on the air. If we don't know something and you do let us know. Now, I'm not going to post my mobile anywhere where you can get to it. If you do know it and you know me, feel free to SMS me. I don't know how you feel about your mobile, Dave, but that's where I draw the line.
I know that a lot of people know it, so it's good, but it's just not next to me at the moment. Sorry, guys. But certainly use email.
And you can ask us anything. In fact, and we've said this before, if there's any topic that you would like us to cover, and it doesn't have to follow our show arc, it doesn't have to fit into what we do. If there's anything you want us to look into, to research more and bring a show on, let us know.
Even a question about a previous show or anything that we may not have filled in.
Absolutely. So whatever tickles your mind, as it were, let us know. Going into it though, and second hour now, and I really do want to talk about this document by Fred Cameron, and I can't see Dude Guy in the chat today, so Dude Guy, again, thank you very much. Now, this document postdates the publication of Who Built the Moon. However, I do believe what Who Built the Moon accomplishes in, and I'm just looking at here, 249 pages. And they go off on different tangents as well, which is fair enough. So there's a lot different material to what Fred has put into his book here. Fred Cameron seems to capture in 27 pages, and very effective in my mind. And again, I'm going to get in touch with Dude Guy, and hopefully he can tell me if Fred is okay with us making this document public knowledge and accessible to anyone. It's elegant. And it really summarizes the scientific moon mysteries. Okay, these are the things that are wrong with the moon in a physical sense. Well, not wrong with, but just odd. We just can't explain it. I mean, these coincidences are too huge to be anything. And in fact, they feed into the anthropic principle, if you will. That's a term that came up on the Big Bang Theory of all places. So, we're not trying to make you guys watch more TV, but some interesting things are coming up in popular culture. Keep your ears to the ground. Some of the truth is going to break through, and I will talk about that particular thing in the second half of this hour. So, what does he tell us in his document? Well, there's a whole bunch of things. The most important thing is, and this is, we are repeating ourselves here, but it's very, very important. It's the most amazing astronomical fact known to us is visible in the sky nearly every period of 24 hours, but especially during total solar eclipses. From our vantage point on Earth, the sun and the moon appear to be exactly the same size. During eclipse, the moon exactly covers the disk of the sun. Okay, which means the sun is exactly, and this is to 2 decimal places, 400 times the size of the moon, yet it is 400 times farther away. I know we've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. So their apparent sizes are the same. In the 18th century, the meaning of this fact was widely debated by astronomers, but today, if it is mentioned by to astronomy students at all, it's just called coincidental. Are there more apparent coincidences between the Earth and the Moon? Yes, there are, and in fact, they're including the Sun as well. Okay, and these are all the numerical oddities that surround the Earth-Moon relationship and the Sun relationship. Did you know, for example, mothers, and so this will be very difficult to do sequentially and in any meaningful way. Okay, so absolute zero is 273.2 degrees centigrade minus. Okay, so it's minus 273.6.
Yep.
Okay, so it's amazing about this 200. It's arbitrary, right? Now, interestingly enough, there are 27.32 days in a sidereal month, right?
What's a sidereal month?
Well, sidereal month is the how can I put this best? Actually, I'll probably write that down, and because that will take us too far. But it's a lunar month. Okay, it's a lunar month. Okay, so that's the best way I can put it at this point here. Now, oddly enough, though, it also takes 273 days for the average human gestation period from conception to birth, which is 10 sidereal months, not 9 calendar months. Okay, so it's usually taking us 273 days. Our bodies are 80% water, all right? But the womb is its own watery domain, and it seems that the moon has some kind of influence over the female cycles. Okay, so there's that as well. The next item on this list is, according to experiments done by Frenchman Gay-Lussac in 1802, the quantity and pressure of gas are held constant. If the quantity and pressure of gas are held constant, then the volume of the gas increases in a linear fashion as its temperature rises. So as you heat it up, the volume of the gas gets bigger. This physical law was named after him, so it's the Gay-Lussac law. It was later called the ideal gas law. If you imagine this gas in a very light container that can easily expand in size, you have the picture. Okay. Now, what interests us here is that the gases expand or contract by 1 divided by 273.2 of the volume for every centigrade degree of heating or cooling. Okay. So it's again that number. Cosmic rays is the next one. Okay. The temperature of the background microwave radiation is 2.73 degrees Kelvin. Okay, everybody with me here? So there are numbers that keep occurring all the time, which make no sense, and they're mostly arbitrary, right? There's this appearance of 2732, you know, in all even arbitrary metrics, or not metric, arbitrary systems. It always comes down to the 2732 sequence. Okay, so it's the entire system that the moon, sun, earth seem to be built in is not a random collation of events. It's a deliberately planned and well thought out message. Okay, and this is also the message in the book Who Built the Moon. Now you say, well, why a message? Well, if you put something like this out there, and we've reached a certain level in our scientific understanding, then you must look at these systems and ask yourself a question. Why was the message put there in the first place, right? And who put it there? So why did we receive a message from someone, and who is this someone? Now you can argue it's God, it's someone else, it's aliens, whatever. The answer is important, but what is more important, that there is a message. That is the more important thing to see here. The system we live in, this solar system, the Earth, the Moon, the Sun relationship, unique as far as we can tell. Certainly within the solar system, it's a unique relationship. What has gone on in the past that would have created this system? What has gone on in the past that would necessitate a message to be sent to us? Right? I hope I haven't lost anyone, but the key thing here is this. We have received a message from the far distant past in the form of the moon and the relationship it has to the Earth and the Sun that we can't ignore, but we do. And in fact, these days it's just, oh yeah, it's a coincidence, you know. Or you know, when you talk about anything that's not explainable easily, it's placebo effect, or you know, it's a coincidence, or well, we don't have any other data verifying that, blah 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 blah. But these are the questions we need to ask. These are the important things that we need to understand. And this is as far as I want to go with the moon. We will put the document up, and you must read it yourselves. It is fascinating. Now, the anthropic principle that I mentioned earlier is essentially. This is how it goes. So the universe is the way it is, just so we could evolve to ask the question about the universe. Sounds a little strange. I know it does. So again, slowly, the universe is the way it is, and in a certain way, so that we could come along one day and ask questions about its nature. So that's the anthropic principle, essentially saying that everything only exists so that we can ask questions about it, but it only existed in that certain way so that we could come along. And we see this now with the moon, sun, and earth. And these are things, if we didn't have any sentience, if we didn't have any intelligence, of course, you know, if we just existed purely on instinct and merely to satisfy our cravings, we would never ask these higher questions, but we do. And because we do, the anthropic principle states, well, that is the purpose of the universe, to create beings like us to ask about itself. We are now entering a domain of thought, which will become complex and uncomfortable for some people. We can no longer pull it off, Dave. We must.
Are we going to lift up a veil?
Yeah, I think we are. We are going to look for meaning now. Okay, up to this point we've been looking at physical evidence, normal, things that are strange, bump in the night, Ghostbusters, all that kind of stuff, and now we are starting to ask about meaning. A lot of people have said, math is the key to the universe, and Sir James Jeans once remarked that God. And it seems that math, since this we've mentioned there are others, there's the golden ratio, phi, that is, and you've seen the golden ratio drawn by Da Vinci. The man in a circle is drawn to the golden ratio. So the span of the arms, for instance, is as long as your entire body in an ideally proportioned human being, for instance. So all these sequences and numbers seem to repeat themselves, and it is more, it seems, than random. It seems it's more meaningful than that. And we now need to ask ourselves, well, there are two sorts of, and you can agree or disagree with me, either everything is a coincidence, right? Nothing matters and it just so happened, and we don't know what happened in the beginning, we don't know what happens in the end, but stuff just happens. And that's a fair enough point of view. I can't argue with that, I can't prove you wrong. Or we say, no, there seems to be more to it. If you belong to the second school of thought, you have some kind of faith. You may not even necessarily believe in a God, but you certainly have a belief system that explains the world that you live in. The question is, what is really going on? A lot of people have tried to work on that, and I've spent most of my life just pondering that question. And I've come up with some very strange ideas, and Dave speaks about what says a lot about Dave's character. Still and wants to be associated.
Do you know what? I have no qualms whatsoever, because we've known each other years, man, right? And what is it, 16 years at least?
Close to that, I'd say.
Yeah. And I've nothing but the greatest respect for my co-host, and the information that, and I used to just I begged for more time with Mickey to, at his parties and stuff, but we just couldn't do it. He's a socialite.
Was more than I am now, but.
But the thing is, it's about the information. So, yeah, keep the roll going, man.
Look, and this is the in the West, and Dave and I have spoken about this at length as well, and I'm just needing to stress this because this show is the launch pad for the next cycle, for the next arc that we're going to embark upon. Is for the West, and this is really in the West, and we are unfortunate that we are experiencing again a duality of thought. All information is one. Take information and just arbitrarily subdivide it into categories. You can, of course, to make it easily understandable, but it is part of the big picture. Everything is part of the big picture. There is no, you can't take something and look at it in isolation. And Dave and I, we spoke about this. Some guy is interested in Bigfoot mysteries. Another guy wants to only talk about UFOs. The third guy is interested in Atlantis. There's another guy who wants to talk about genetic engineering. A third person involved in that discussion wants to talk about the New World Order. And that's all good. And you need specialists. And the research that has been done by these people is astonishing. However, Dave and I, and quite a few hosts on freedomslips.com here, a user-supported radio station, by the way, we are trying to bring it together, and we're trying to show you guys there is a connection, a much deeper connection, in fact, a much more obvious connection, in the connection that Dave and I were astonished to find in our researches, right, Dave? I mean, the gold itself, right? Immortality, dude. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, and the link between gold and time travel and dimensional travel.
all of that, and this is not recent stuff. This is mythology. It goes back thousands of years, before the written word, or the clay tablet, as it were. So these are the things that we need to look at. This is a holistic approach to everything, right? You can't look at isolated events and hope to understand them. It's impossible. It's impossible. If you looked at a rocket going up into the sky and only focused on the flame coming out of its bottom section, that's all you're doing. That's you studying. You're looking at. You know all about it. You know how hot it is. You know how much gas is expelled. You know the composition of it. The rocket itself, the purpose of it, who built it, where it is going, where it's coming from, all of that you're missing.
Nice analogy.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This was on YouTube and came around via email as well. It's a video, and at the video you're given this instruction. Please count how many times a ball is passed, a basketball it was, between these people.
Oh, I love this, right? Jeff.
Yeah, yeah. And there's 4 people, I think, that are passing the basketball.
On each team.
Yes, and they're passing them. They're passing. And at the end of the video, which goes for, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, they say, "Did you see the gorilla?" And you go, "What?" No, because you didn't focus on it. But if you watch the video again, as you're counting the passes of the ball, there is a gorilla walking through the group of people.
And stops mid-screen and stays there and then slowly walks back out again while the ball's bouncing around and people are catching it from person to person, which you're meant to look at. So you've been told to count the catches, you do, and you know what? Your brain does not see it. So unless you're focused on it, you don't see it.
Absolutely. Now, and I was one of the people that didn't see the gorilla. I'm a fortunate man. My wife did see the gorilla, so nothing goes by her.
I counted, I think, the correct amount of catches in my group. Yeah.
Right.
And there was actually 2 teams, and one team of people had white T-shirts, the other one had black T-shirts, and they said focus on the whatever color ball it was, maybe a white ball or something, caught by the white T-shirt people.
Which makes it more complicated, of course. So
because the black gorilla, you are told to ignore it, so you do.
And it's astonishing, and it says a lot about the way we perceive things. When I was studying psych, perception theory and all those things, right? There are a lot of illusions just taking us by surprise. And it doesn't matter how often you see the illusion, you will always be fooled by it. Dave put together an awesome video on YouTube, so do have a look at it when you can, where he moves around a piece
of paper.
Yeah, on a checkerboard. Dave, just quickly explain that optical illusion.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for handing it over. It's a checkerboard, and there's a cylinder, a green cylinder. If you're aware of it, smile, because it's such a trick to the eye, but it teaches us more about how we perceive things and how we're actually not seeing what the real world is. The biggest proof, Jeff the Gorilla video is an awesome example. The checkerboard one, it was actually there was a doctor who created it. I forget the guy's name. Tell me if you know who it is. And just in time, you can ask a question if you like. The video it's referenced on our website. It's on our YouTube channel, which is really cool. Shiny Side Out YouTube. Not the Shiny Side Out videos for Freedom Slips, but it's all on our website. So shinysideout.net. Go there. Have a look. And I've printed out the photograph of the checkerboard with the green cylinder. Now it's illuminated from the right-hand side, casting a shadow across the middle group of squares and what our brain does with shadow is something else entirely. Predatory animals have our view. We are predators. Our view is different to non-predatory creatures. And I'll explain why. The predators look on say an African plain for a light source from above, shading underneath, for them to be able to distinguish the creatures they're trying to get from the landscape, from whatever it is, right? Make them stand out. However, you'll notice one thing, that all creatures that are predated are darkly coloured on top and lightly coloured underneath, which does something extraordinary to the poor brain of the predator. It makes them invisible from a distance. You can't tell. Even though the underside is illuminated, the brain says, no, there's no shadow there, I don't see something. And this is proven by the checkerboard. So there's squares A and B, please check it out. Where I printed the thing out twice, and I cut one of the squares out, and I just slide it with my finger over the top of the checkerboard, and you watch as I do it. I filled it on my phone. When I slide it, it changes color. The square changes color that I'm sliding. You can do it yourself. You can find it online. Just do, I think, checkerboard cylinder is all you need to do in Google Images. You'll see the same thing. Print it out for yourself. You'll see they're completely different. When you fold the paper together, they're identically colored. Our brain does that to us intentionally to help us with the world, so that we understand what shapes are. When things are in shadow, our brain is able to make a three-dimensional object of it. And there's a couple of really good examples, but there's one with a Rubik's Cube that has a shadowed side. In real life, we know that there's no shadow because we're also we're illuminated when we look at it. But because of the tone of the colors on that same side, there's a color you can peel off the top and put it on the side, and it's actually the same color as on the side. Our brain does this to us, and the point of me making that video was your eyes see things that your brain interprets that aren't true.
Correct. And this is really the point that we're trying to make here, guys. So you live in a world of visual input, you hear things, you smell things, you feel things, but our most important input is visual. And certainly if you're blind, unfortunately, then your other senses tend to take over. But it is if you have sight, the most important information is received by your eye, but you can't trust it. Another point we're trying to make is that you must look at everything, and that's really, really, really hard. And I know that, and you will miss out on a great number of things. There's some hundreds of thousands of inputs, sensory inputs you get every minute, every second, and we filter it down to a handful, just so we can navigate in this world. A lot of the stuff that is received by us is ignored by the brain, because it's not necessary, right? Or the brain has been conditioned to think a certain way and to construct reality around us in a certain way. You can look at children when they're trying to judge distance and trying to focus on things, and sometimes laughing at something that you can't see. Animals are the same. Dogs and especially cats seem to notice things that you can't see, that you can't somehow perceive. And
children also have less of a filter.
In fact, they have no filter yet. Not
Mm-hmm.
And we are taught these filters. And what Dave and I are trying actively, we're trying to unlearn the filters. Trust me, virtually impossible.
Yep.
Virtually impossible. All we can do is sound erudite and talk to you about it. And say, oh, don't do this and don't do that. But the truth, Dave, I as easily fooled as any of you. The only thing is that I have a splinter in my mind, and Dave is trying to pull it out for me. It's not working though at the moment. So it's really important and very important, very, very, it's up to you as the individual, that's what I'm trying to say, to make the choices to see, to make the choices to pay attention. I've said it before and I say it again, fantastic cartoon on Facebook, the guy who started paying attention. Just start paying attention to your world. Start paying attention to the things that you have been taught to laugh at and to ignore. As soon as you start laughing at something automatically, and I've said a few things today that might have made you smile, smirk, or cringe when I say magic, when I say, things like that. You go, oh, does he know what he's talking about? It sounds a bit crazy, a bit loopy. Why do you think that? Why do you think that? Who told you?
Conditioning.
Absolutely.
I'm going to use one word: myth.
Yes.
And legend.
Already, this has a lot less value with you than scientific fact and New Scientist magazine and peer-reviewed literature.
Don't get me started.
Right? Am I right? Yes. So this is what we are trying to give to you, and because we haven't really spoken too much about it, the spiritual side, for lack of a better word, it's more than that though. It's all the things that make us human in a way. You know, the feelings we have, our morality, the fantastic phenomena we experience. You know, such as, I mean, I was amazing my little nephews with magnetism. You know, you take a magnet, have another magnet, you can actually push it away.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nothing connecting, and they're playing with this, and it's great to see children discovering these things. I just hope that our educational system will not rob them of the joy they're experiencing at this very simple physics experiment that they're.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Go on.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember interrupting my daughter once, and she was interacting with someone that I couldn't see. She was very, very young, 2 maybe, and staring at a blank wall.
Mm-hmm.
And she was gabbering away, and I said, "Well, what? Who are you talking to?" She goes, "The person there." Well, in her language, in her ability to speak to me and communicate with me, she said that there was someone there.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, "Wow, okay, cool. It's probably my mother, my late mother. She would love to have visited the grandkids." So my mum saw this stuff. She could see outside of what normal people could see. I don't get to see that. I can hear stuff outside of what normal people can hear. And I think these things are important for us, just like you said, Mekki, to try and lift the veil, trying to, if you can break some of the programming and not turn the filters on. Maybe wake up one morning with one less filter on. That'd be awesome. We already spoke about the filters to do, observe the news, watch how they treat the right and left wing guests, or the people who are agreeing with the host and people who are disagreeing with the host, and see what opinion you get. I mean, think, once again, I'm going to do another Simpsons thing. When they played the bad music, when Homer was being interviewed on that 60 Minutes or whatever it was show, right? And he's watching his own show and he heard the music. Oh, this person's guilty. He had an impression about what was right and what was wrong. So try to just open your eyes, maybe without being terrible or condescending to you. Attempt it. I mean, it's really tough. It's tough stuff. It's like when someone said to me, "Oh, meditation is real easy." I mean, really, is it? Can you sit in a room for an hour not thinking anything, not thinking how long it's been, not going, "Oh, gee, this is really easy. Oh, I'll have to start again." If you can put a stopwatch in front of you and you tap it, and then the moment you hear something in your head again, like you thought something, tap it again, I reckon 2 minutes maximum. If you're great, like a Zen master, probably an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Probably, I really need to push that thing now and go to the toilet. I don't know, but it's not something that's easy.
But this is the thing, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have now been raising a generation, or maybe generations, of people with no attention span whatsoever. Culprit. The refresh rate used to be 56 hertz, I think. It's much higher now. Oh, sorry, kilohertz, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, it's flickering at you. But not only is the TV constantly flickering at you, so it's not a steady state picture. Okay, it's constantly flickering, and that changes your brain. Trust me. It is also now jumping from actual image to image much faster than it used to, and shows are much shorter, and interludes and advertising is very quick, and images are flicked through a lot faster than they used to be. If you want to look at what old TV used to look like, watch an English show. UK TV hasn't made the switch yet, but certainly in America everything is moving a lot faster, which of course means that your mind cannot be at rest. And when we made the great leaps forward, when people like Newton and Einstein took themselves away for a year, people say, Apple hit him in the head and he came up with gravity, and not really. That's not. The truth is, he locked himself away for a year to work on a problem. Every great thinker, be it mathematician or otherwise, physicist, I don't care, even philosopher, they lock themselves away. They go and think, all right, for a long, long time, and they take that very, very seriously. Okay, so it's something that we are losing as a people. Teaching our young not to have the attention they're required. Everybody's talking about ADD. Well, you know what? This is just nutrition and hey, come on, guys, ADD, really? It's not even a thing. And look, it is a thing, but it's something that we have inflicted upon ourselves. Or the people.
I was actually having a conversation with a party guest last night, and they said that when you observe, they're a nurse.
Yep.
When you observe a real ADD person, you'd be surprised at how quickly it escalates from someone just fidgeting to someone that you would need to have psychiatric, held down on a gurney. Right? That's real ADD. The one that we see more than anyone else more than anything else, is simply just food sources, colorings, preservatives. I know that we keep our children pretty healthy with what they eat. We know that certain ones set them off. If we were to feed them the next day, they're absolutely berserk. Uncontrolled energy. It's like the ultimate food source for a warrior going into battle. You'd want that. You'd want to be just like them, like berserkers. So, but guess what? We've just been joined live in the studio by Tones from the chat room. Hey, Tones.
Gentlemen, can you hear me?
Certainly.
Yes. All right, great show. I'm not even going to get into the ADD thing because it just fires me up.
It gets me going too.
Fires me up, man, when parents are throwing their young children on medication so early instead of letting the child's mind explore and see what happens. It's beyond me. But I want to comment on the selective attention test and what you were saying before as far as what we perceive. Now, there's two parts of it. There's what we perceive, which is the second half of it, but we have to take into account the designer of the test. Now, in this selective attention test with this gorilla, you'll see that there are 6 individuals passing the ball around. Out of the 6 individuals, 3 of them have white shirts. The 3 that have white shirts have all stonewashed, pretty much jeans on. And then there's 3 that are fully dressed in black. But there's one girl who's dressed with the black top and also has stonewashed jeans on. When the ball goes to the left side of the screen, when there are 2 people in the white shirts on, with the white shirts, they're on the left side of the screen, is when the gorilla enters the right side of the screen. And that is when you're fixed and focused on counting the amount of passes from everyone wearing the white shirt on the left side of the screen, but your eyes aren't fixed on the right side of the screen. And by the time the ball goes into the back, the gorilla's in the rotation already with the rest of the black shirts.
Yep.
But if the gorilla was wearing a different color, perhaps that would have caught our eye much sooner.
If it was purple or pink.
Right. So the perception is one half of it, but the designer is the other half of it ahead of time.
Oh,
that we have to take into account.
Correct. You're right. And there are a lot of smart people. And the point you're making is most important, because the people that are controlling our perception, they're not dummies. Designing the perceptual world that we live in according to certain guidelines, right? They know what makes the human mind tick. They understand what our triggers are, which thing to avoid, how to make us think a certain. You're right, Tones. That's exactly right.
And that agrees with that. What we're talking about with the media, a seemingly accidental slip of that live shot of the person capping themselves on air.
Oh, yes.
If programmed, if they want us to see it, well, it looks as though they did.
And I would say, I truly believe, is to damage us spiritually. I know this 'cause I know you guys are laughing and smirking. Ask yourself why. To expose more of us, in greater numbers of us at the same time to violence. I mean, movie violence doesn't have the same impact. You know, it's sickening enough. If you know it's a real thing, it will have a profound impact on you. People that go to war, you can watch 5 million war movies if you want, right? Every day, watch a war movie, watch. It will probably not give you post-traumatic stress. You go to war, you're in an actual war zone, your people getting killed, you know, your friends, you're killing people, you will most likely come out with what people used to call shell shock, is now called post-traumatic stress. I don't care what you call it. You're being damaged. Okay,
Yeah, PTS is pretty certain. It's funny because in the previous wars, people were just told to suck it up.
Yes.
You know, get over it, man up.
Yeah.
You're all good. But then these confessions would come out in deathbeds.
They're not all. Trust me. My grandfather was in war. My grand uncle was in war. I had people killed in war. But his stories, when he told them to me, I was, I don't know, 10 years old. Horrendous. I mean, certainly to a 10-year-old. But you know, looking back at it, that what he experienced must have been awful to me. You know? Now I understand it. Didn't have it when I was 10 years old. And look back at it. I mean, why do we even go to war? Why do we inflict this violence on us? I don't know. I don't get it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I just want to say that UK, welcome in the chat room, UK. I met you yesterday or the day before when I was doing the impromptu self-promotion. It was awesome. UK says that his little girl did the same thing when I was talking about mine, and said that, but she was about 6 or 7. He said they just moved in the new house, and that she sat in the hallway just chatting. I asked her, this is UK says, he asked his daughter who she was chatting to, and she said, my friend Daddy. And it went on for about 3 weeks. So, yeah, if the person called UK is from the UK, which I'm probably believing, I can make an assumption there, and that, yeah, there's a long history, you know, we're talking medieval houses and things like that with that have been expanded upon, which were just a single room, now they're a house. There's a lot of history in those houses. So, yeah, thanks UK for bringing that up.
And the thing is this, Dave, thank you for picking up on that. I didn't see it in the chat. This is another avenue of investigation, and we certainly have a show on that. And I think you're all familiar with what normally happens when a child says that, oh, it's an imaginary friend, you know, and if it gets really bad, oh, we'll put the child on drugs, it'll go away. No, it happens. Trust me, it really does. Psychiatry has gone, I don't know if it was ever good, but it's certainly gone bad. And maybe we should take it seriously. You know, I mean, these phenomena are real. I mean, poltergeists something seems to be going on. Children do have these imaginary friends. Well, I don't want to call them imaginary, but they're friends that we as adults cannot see because our perception filter filters them out. We unsee them. All right? We can no longer look into that spectrum successfully blinded. But, well, everybody that wants us controlled. Can you do me a favor and just say a few words? I'd love to hear your voice if you're still there.
Hey, Tones. Would you like... I could do my Australian one. No,
yeah, I didn't want to jack up your show, guys. You're having a great show. I just wanted to drop that in there about the designer, the eye of the designer. I mean, when you had Bill Bryson on, right? He talked about the photo of Neil Armstrong standing right, you know, his NASA basically portrait where he's standing in front of the moon. If you see the photo in color, you see the moon right there in back of him in the foreground, in the backdrop in full color. But then the one they produced is in black and white. But we're so fixed on looking at Neil Armstrong that you never notice the picture of the moon in full color right behind him. Same thing, right?
You recall that picture, and yeah, and you know what? Until we had the interview, until we talked to Jose as well about the color of the moon, and then I saw the picture again because I know I've seen it before. I look at that picture again now, and you can't miss that it's in color because I no longer have the preconceived notion
that it's black and white.
So there's some of the filters for certainly coming down, but it's a hard slog. It really is. So I can now see that, and in fact, I noticed, oh, it is color. Look at this, boom. But then I look back at my childhood, and I know that I looked at things differently. There's this memory that comes back to you. I don't know if you guys get that, but sometimes you look at something, oh, that's not right, that's not right, and then now recently, and maybe that's because awareness cascade is just around the corner. And I by the way, Tones, I don't know if Dave and I, we at around 8 billion. That the awareness cascade will just happen. Some people call it a rapture. Some people call it, I don't know, Armageddon, whatever you want to call it. But at that point, I think we will all wake up fully accessing the Akashic record and who knows what, if we're not killed before that. That's
I totally agree with what you're saying here. I think it's going to be a very difficult time. The transition about what your comment was about exploring the child's mind and entertaining the possibilities of the unknown that the child is speaking with. The trap that so many parents have fallen into today is taking the easy way out because of they've gotten caught up in their own personal lives, getting busy, being so busy that the easy way out is to just medicate the child and basically dumb down the child instead of letting the child explore. And, I don't understand how, our parents and our parents did a pretty good job, I think, of surviving on this planet without being diagnosed with ADD or ADHD at the age of 3 or 5 or being medicated that early. I just don't, I think that's capping off the potential of the individual instead of letting the child explore. So what if the child may be hyperactive at that age? They're a child. Maybe they're really good at one specific thing, but you haven't given the child the opportunity to explore that yet because you're pigeonholing the child and trying to keep the child down by basically making the child
zombifying them.
Yeah, it's zombifying them. It's terrible. Yeah.
You can't. No one that I know of can say I was great at every class at school. No one can. They all have an ability in some realm, whether it's in English or it's scientific, whether it be chemistry or physics or whatever, mathematics, right? Or just the written word. Some people are fantastic at written word, or maybe just can concentrate so well on learning other languages. Why isolate and limit these people and try and force them through the cookie cutter,
Yeah, and you know what? The thing is this: we've actually been given this clue, and it predates the clue I'm just about to give you. And I'm not a religious person, but Jesus said you need to be as children to enter the kingdom of heaven, and you can look at that any which way you want, okay? And I have to stress, I'm not a religious kind of guy. However, I believe that the figure of Jesus himself, the man, whoever he might have been, and I have no opinion, I want to knowledge. He had knowledge that went well beyond the current day, and I think that knowledge was kept alive by a few insiders, from master to student. It was transmitted through the centuries, through the millennia, and it is the childlike nature that we need to have and look at the world without the filters that we get in later life. It's that the clues are everywhere. The clues on how we can live, how we can survive this, how we can thrive, how we can escape our prisons. Make no mistake, this is going to come up in the future as well. It's a prison of the mind. We are only free when we dream. We are only. It's like we've spoken about. It's like a walk in the prison yard when you dream. There are no limits. But when you're awake in your physical body, that's your prison. And we are willingly. In fact, we don't even know we're in the prison. We have no idea. We think this is what life should be. Let's be cruel and let's be limited in our perception. Let's have no thoughts. I think it's the Gospel of Thomas. I'm not entirely sure, Robo Hippie. I have read the Bible, believe it or not. I've read the Quran as well, and I've read the Talmud, but that's a whole different story there. The clues are there, guys, and we are just ignoring them. We're dragging our children. We're turning into. It's insane. Think about it. We're the only.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Do you know when you play a first-person shooting game in a computer, the designers? I think I've got an analogy that's going to work because we're using all the right terms. So the designers of the level of the computer game have said that you enter through this door, the only exit is the other one, and I've made a maze that there's really only one way to get through. You can't just walk wherever you want. You can't leave the game entirely into a black space and sit down and watch everyone else play. You just can't do that. So you're corralled through the obstacles that have been designed to be there. Only a couple of games widen that area to just, if you want to be in the map in that particular level, you can go and do anything and take as long as you want. Go for it. But it's not, you haven't, basically in a computer game, you haven't hit tilde and gone into dev mode and flown out and watched it from a distance in a three-dimensional space outside of the designer's specified area. So I know that you can do that. There's a particular mod I used to write levels for Quake and Quake 2. So that is an awesome thing, but when we dream, we're not even there. We're not in that corralled area by design. We're there somewhere else. And it's a magical place, and I think I mentioned this before, but the Borg did the same thing and ended up getting shut down because they're not allowed to do it. They weren't allowed to be free thinking and communicate together offline. That's just wrong. So I'll be quiet and I won't suggest the thing that came to mind straight away, but I might do that offline with the guys. But think about that. Think about where we are and what we do, and this is just another show where once again we're making the red pill and blue pill choice, and it's very much the Matrix.
And just on that, the next week we're going to hear how it all started for the West. How did we all go so terribly wrong in looking at the world? When did we decide to there is science over there and there is spirituality over there? When did we do that, right? And you're right, Dave. Sorry, I'm reading something Dave wrote. The East looks at it very, very differently. In the East, and I'm talking about geographically in Asia and so forth, the worldview is very different to what we have in the West. Unfortunately, for the most part of the last, let's call it 500 years, 1,000 years even, the West has dominated the globe. The Western culture is infiltrating everywhere. Our cultural values, if you want to call them that, and we have them. We have cultural values in the West as well, but they're now being pushed aside for Coca-Cola and McDonald's. I'm not picking on those guys, particularly. They're just the biggest to pick on. The Walt Disney Corporation is just as bad. We are losing those values, and we make other cultures lose them as well. When the Spanish sailed the seas, they destroyed entire cultures. The English did the same. Well, they didn't destroy them. The English supplanted cultures. They made everywhere England, or tried to. That's why we have so much cricket, and I still don't get that game, but that's a whole different story again. So we have a whole cultural revolution going on, and in a bad way, on the globe right now. The East was insulated to some extent for thousands of years. And if you look back in history and Renaissance and what it means, rebirth, right? That only came about after the fall of Constantinople, which is now Istanbul. And all the Eastern knowledge came into the West again, into Europe. Yeah, Nostradamus, Michel de Notre Dame, the seer, he actually got most of his medical education and medical practices in the East. From the Arabs at the time, in fact, and he helped save a lot of plague victims at the time in Europe. A lot of information came through mathematics, philosophy, physics, other scientific disciplines, which had been preserved in the East, while in Europe we were, struggling through the Dark Ages, as they're called, an age of great ignorance for Europe.
I can't wait for that because I'm learning stuff right now.
So we're going to look at that, and it was Descartes René Descartes, to some extent, in my mind, who was the main culprit, a great thinker, great man, but certainly of the opinion that we are more or less biological, mechanically, chemically-driven creatures. Maybe not much of a soul life. And that was then taken to further extremes as we went along. And now you've got two very diametrically opposed, in fact, views of you're either a spiritual person or you're a scientific person. So atheists hang their head on the science, and I guess faith-based people hang their head in a spiritual life that we have, and then there's this polarized view of the world. Wrong. There's only everything. It's always everything, guys. You can't have either or. You can't look at the flame of the rocket and understand where it's going, where it came from, what motivated it, how it was built, who planned it, who built the equations to put it into orbit, or in fact what the atmosphere is made of. It flies in. Not possible. So I'm spent.
Look, it's brought us to the end of our show. Show 27. If you're listening to this on YouTube, don't forget to go to two websites, freedomslips.com and shinysideout.net, for all the information you'll need. Anything we've spoken about tonight will be in some show notes in some way, shape or form. Maybe not today's one. We'll try and fill in what we can. This is a listener-supported station. And if you go to Freedom Slips, go to the homepage, there's a donate button. If you've got anything at all that's going to contribute towards the running of the station, there's large bills, we know that. None of us here make any money from this station. We're not paid. We love bringing you this. It's our hobby. And so feel free to go in there. And if you do like our show, be sure to use the pull-down box and choose Shiny Side Out, and that lets Hawk know that, it gives him some feedback. So, Meki, what are we going to do next week?
I said we're going to look at how it all happened, how the separation came about. In some detail, we're going to look at who the people were that were involved. Maybe there was some kind of agenda to separate science and spirituality. We're going to look at the theories of the day, and we're going to see how that affects our life to some extent, so we can understand people like Richard Dawkins better, I guess, and other thinkers as well. And also look at a few scientists that don't have that problem with spirituality. In fact, for them it's very important. Meditation and dreams. I'm going to talk about a scientist who, in fact, saw the atomic structure of an atom and in a dream or vision, as he called it.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and you don't read about this stuff in the history and science and textbooks because, it's a bit out there, and it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't run along with the mechanistic view of the world. So we'll bring that to you, and you can look forward to surprised a little.
If there's anything at all, don't forget, use the Contact Us page. You can get in contact with us, send us messages, whatever it is. If it's on a YouTube clip or if it's on our just Twitter, look for Shiny Side Out on Twitter, and you can message us. You can do it on Facebook as well. Look for Shiny Side Out. If you can get in contact with us, let us know. We'll bring it up. Join us in the chat. Really honest, guys. You've heard the show. You know how we interact with the chat. Come on. Be a guest if you've got something to bring up.
Yeah, Tones came in from the chat, guys. So Tones was in the chat and then he dialed in. So that's a great...
And thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate that.
It's always a pleasure, Tones, and you know that.
It's the voice, man.
I know. I wish I had his voice.
We could trade for the information.
Hey, my great friends, give me his voice.
Knowledge Crush, you know that.
Yeah, I know. And by the way, we have some merchandise available too. Knowledge Crush, Tone's idea, awesome. And still haven't sold one T-shirt, except for the one that I bought for one of the ladies. So there's the music. Take us out, Meki. Or maybe not. We'll see you next week for show 28. From Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And